It's only 10 minutes away.
Yep, I'm on it. Broadcast.
Morning, moderator. Are we doing an introduction or just going straight to the presentation?
Good morning, participants, and welcome to our webinar about CIL. We are going to talk about who we are and what we do, and then our director, Carolyn Growie, is going to do a Q&A section on Ask the Director. So if you have any questions that you want to ask our director, Carolyn Growie, she will be happy to field those questions. My name is Joanne Pearson, and I am the Advocacy Outreach Coordinator for the Center, and I am also the tech host for this webinar. Please feel free to type your questions in the question box, and I will field those as we get those. And if you are dialing in, we will call on you to ask questions at the end. So thank you so much, and if you'll keep your mic on mute, we are going to start the webinar. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Carolyn Growie with the Center for Independent Living Disability Resource Center. We're so happy that you are able to join us today for this webinar. We're going to be going over what is a CIL and how the center partners with you to reach your goals, whether you are a person with disability or you're the community in a business or you're at a school, wherever you might be in our environment. We want to make sure that people with disabilities are able to partner with you and with us to meet their goals. So we will be going through some different pieces. As I've already said, I'm Carolyn Growie, and I have been the executive director for the Center for Independent Living for the last couple of years. I've been involved with Centers for Independent Living back to 1987, and I enjoy being down here in Florida. And I'm going to share with you a bit about our center here and then be able to answer any questions as Joanne had already shared with you as our moderator. So we will proceed in learning about what a Center for Independent Living is. So Centers for Independent Living are around the country, and our particular center was founded in 1980. And we have been here working with constituents to help educate, facilitate, assist, promote the needs, advocate for different areas of individuals' lives, both individually as well as systemically. And we're going to talk about that and how we can partner with the community and the individual so that the individual can meet the goals of independence that they choose. When we're looking at that, just to be aware, no matter where you are and you might be seeing our webinar right now, there are more than 600 centers throughout the country. And so they have been in existence since the Rehabilitation Act was formulated back in 1973. And so we have continued to have centers develop and work throughout our communities to improve the opportunities and have equality for every person in the community to participate. Because what we talk about a lot is that there's nothing about us without us. And so our reality for our center is that there are over 128,000 people with disabilities in our 4 counties. That doesn't mean that every person with disability in our 4 counties is needing to have services, but we want to make sure that they know about our services so that when they would like them, or if there was something that was needed, that we're able to provide it. We have some key statistics that we have on the screen, and those statistics will change over time, but the idea is that people with disabilities are more likely to have barriers or roadblocks that will prevent them from fully participating and engaging in their communities. And so what we do is try to assist with finding the different ways that we can reach what's happening at different times. So as an example, 34% of people with disabilities are more likely to have an issue or difficulty or concern related to transportation so that they can get from A to B, whether that A to B be for going to the grocery store, going to a religious entity, participating in a recreation activity, going for healthcare, going to work, or any other environment that they might choose to. If you can't get from A to B, then it's an issue. So sometimes in different parts of my presentations, I will talk about myself here for a moment, and that for myself, transportation is always one of my key elements. And why would that be? Well, I happen to be a person with disability myself, and so I use a cane when it is a time period that it would be dark or unsafe for me. And so when I am someplace that I don't know, you will find me using the cane. The cane allows me to let people know that A, I do have a vision impairment, but more importantly, it allows me to be safe in my transactions that I might be involved in the community. But when I have transportation and when I use my mobility equipment, which is my cane, I can participate like everybody else can. So I am then able to be one of the 21% of people with disabilities that is working in gainful employment. I would like to see us be able to assist the community to have more opportunity to participate in employment and to be more included in the opportunities of our full network in our region as well as throughout the country. So we try to look at different ways and spaces that we can participate. People with disabilities are also, unfortunately, because so many of us are not employed, that we're more likely to have incomes that are less than $15,000 per year. Many people who are on disability or who have disabilities are on disability supported income, whether that be SSI, Social Security supplemental income, or it be that they have done some work either currently or in the past that allowed them to have Social Security disability income. But then with not having the full-time employment or not having full gainful employment is why some of those pieces would still come up to be less than what might be an income that would be easily facilitated to have provision of full inclusion in society. And then with all of that that goes on, there's also other issues that might be more likely, as an example, of being 4 times as likely as others in the community to not have adequate health insurance, or sometimes to not even having access to health insurance at all, depending on what their particular circumstances may be. So as a Center for Independent Living, we envision a world where people with disabilities have the freedom and choice of control of their lives, of all aspects, to choose how and when they will participate, to have an opportunity to engage with their society at the level in which they choose. So we're going to go through some more parts of what is involved at our center. Many centers across the country provide all 5 core services, and those being information referral, advocacy, independent living skills training, peer support, and transition and diversion. So I'm going to go into some more details of each of those as we move forward. For information and referral, some of the contact that we may have with individuals with disability maybe just for a moment. We may have a phone call. We may have somebody who has one question. We might refer them to another organization that directly meets the need that they need, so that we're connecting them to ensure that they have access to the goods and services and the resources of our community. Ways that we also operate regarding information referral that are ideas or pieces that we will discuss with individuals might be accessibility, assistive technology. Maybe somebody has a question about the benefits that they're receiving. Maybe they're transitioning from one school to another and they're trying to make sure that their IEP follows for them, or maybe they're trying to make sure that they can enroll in the education or employment entity of their choosing. It could be something related to housing or legal services that comes up. We already mentioned the need for transportation before, and so sometimes we help to get people signed up for that, or to check on what kind of transportation may be available in their community. And with every individual that we work with, we always ask if they're prepared for emergencies. And so one of those pieces is that we never know when an emergency could be coming upon that individual. But we know that when we properly plan, we have the opportunity to lead to proper performance. And that's one of my own father's favorite slogans to say. That's from a quote from another entity long before him as well. But the idea is that if we take that moment to be prepared, we have the opportunity to be able to be successful. And that's not just in our emergency preparedness, but as we talk about skills development when we move forward here. And I'll just share actually the individual and systems advocacy piece first. With our individual and systems advocacy, we might be working with you as an individual person, or we might be working with the community at large. But the idea is that we are working together to remove those barriers so that everybody can participate in the maximum level that they choose, that they can engage and participate fully in their community as they would like to. So we're going to go on with some examples of that. When we look at systems advocacy, what we talk about is coordinating with our county officials or our city officials, being able to look at what might be those needs in our community. How could we have, for example, 24-hour transportation? Or how might we be able to make sure that at a public meeting, every person with a disability has the opportunity to participate? Or maybe it's that somebody individually is needing to have some assistance for their own public involvement in what's going on. And that could be with the community mental health system, or that could be with Social Security. There's all kinds of pieces. But every action that's a public entity, we want to make sure that people with disabilities are able to participate fully and be included in the process at all levels. And I should also just go, while we talk about independent living skills, I'm just going to just tie that in to how it relates to the individual advocacy as well, which might be, in this case, we're showing that we're providing a skill set in this picture to individuals in a classroom setting where we're going over what might be something that they would share with their employer. How would their employer know that they had needs? So we try to look at strategies or skills that they might benefit from knowing if it was something that they wanted to work on towards going forward. We look at ways that we can engage. And so as an individual, if the part to be included in the employment is being able to request the accommodation you need, if your employer doesn't know what will make your employment better, they can't provide that service. And they're not required to provide it if you don't ask for it. What's different about that is that for school, when your parents may have been assisting you, in a school setting, every individual is supposed to be provided with the least restrictive environment. And that's a different law that takes place there. So some of our advocacy that we talk about as we go forward, we may bring those back up again. And examples of other skill building might be that decision making or that goal setting. Which kind of a career would you like to go for? Or a budgeting workshop so that you might learn how to manage your money. Or being able to look at some of your own health needs. Maybe there's something in nutrition, or maybe you're trying to find the resource that would meet your particular disability, or something's changing with your disability, and we want to make sure that you can get that service. It might be solving a problem. Maybe something's come up and you just need another person to talk to about it, and if we can find the resource for you and we can help teach you that skill about what might be the steps to take to solve a problem, it may be the next piece that would be useful to you. Sometimes we go up and down. It's not that we go straight through this process and we only go one direction. It can be up, down, sideways, back again on another issue. It's all okay. The center's here for as long as you would like to be having us be engaged with you. And then again, here's that disaster preparedness. We talk about it again. We want to make sure that you have what you need to move forward in your life, because it is your life, not our life and not our goals. They are your goals for where we're trying to go with you. Our peer support and counseling is a big piece that we have had as part of centers for a very long time. This part of what goes on is that we try to make sure that each of us can grow and become empowered or maintain our empowerment, that our needs, our goals, our ideas, our similarities that we might have with something else can be somebody else can be supported. But there's a way for us to reach out and be included in our own communities and our own environments. And that might be with our own disability, or it might be as a general support group that we run here at the center. So in this example that we have here that we're showing, we talk about Brian, who was an adult mentor, and he was able to work with Mike, who was a new person at a center for independent living. And at the time, Mike didn't know what he might be able to do. Mike didn't know that people with disabilities became adults and were able to engage with others in their community, and that they might be able to get that job or their own apartment, or find out what it might be like to have a social relationship with somebody else, or learn what it might be like to just have a conversation to see how do our lives progress and what might be that next step that we'd like to take. And so by having a peer, a one-on-one person to be able to talk with, we're able to do that. Or it might be in a group setting. Either way, the idea of being able to connect with somebody else in your life and for those conversations. For transition and diversion, this is a 5th core service that was added by the powers that be in Washington. It was something that we were already providing because, of course, centers for independent living find it very important to be as inclusive and involved in all aspects of life. But this new core service was added, and it's defined basically in 2 ways. Part of it is to make sure that when we provide services, that we allow youth to grow and be successful as they move from teenagehood to adulthood. So as they are part of a family structure in their homeschool setting, or in their school of choice, or in their high school that they might be in, that what is the choice that they wish to make for going on for further education or employment? Where do they want to live? What might be the skills that they need to have those supports in their own home? What if their parent isn't going to be there? What if they need to have an individual that may come to their home, and what kinds of skills might they need to have to employ somebody in their own home to assist them? Or what might be the environment that they would set up so that they can lock their own doors, so that they can be secure, or participate just like we're having today in a webinar or some other training session that they might like to participate in. The other half of it is our community transition side. And with the community transition side, what we look at is how do we assist individuals to maintain life in their own home? How do we help people to stay out of a nursing facility or out of an institutional setting? How do we find accessible community housing? How do we make sure that the parts that we want to be part of and engaged in allow us to do so? How do we make it so that our environments going forward are allowable for each of us to be participating? What we want to make sure is that it's an informed choice, that you have the goal of your future engaging and setting for what you want it to be as you move forward. And when we do that, we try to make sure that even if it is that you want to be in a group home setting or you want to be in an institutional setting, we want to support the choice that you're making. There are many of us here in the environment of the Centers for Independent Living and working with people with disabilities, and even ourselves as persons with disabilities, in which we know that most of us don't want to be in that institutionalized care. And so that's where this support is coming from. And so, as I've already shared, it is a mandated service that we provide. And when I say mandated, we would love to find ways that it was a funded service so that every person with disability, whether they were coming to a center or not coming to the center, had enough waiver supports, had enough pieces that they're able to engage in their community life and in their home environment to have the least restrictive environments, both for themselves as an individual or themselves as their family out in the community. So we'll go to the next slide, Joanne. So as part of that skill development, as part of the piece that we do partner with individuals with disabilities to look at careers that they're interested in, filling out resumes, doing surveys, being able to look online, talk about what an application process is or request for accommodation might be. We partner with vocational rehab. We partner with the Division of Blind Services. We try to find where the resources might be. So maybe it isn't a person with disability, but maybe we know an entity out in the community who is hiring. We try to make sure that that environment is also offering fully inclusive opportunities to apply for the job so that a person with disability has that chance to be included in the candidate pool, so that that individual isn't turned away because of their disability at the interview stage, or isn't able to be accommodated at the next stage. We try to make sure that we educate businesses as well. And through this employment program, if you are a person who's looking for a position, we are happy to talk with you and figure out how we can help you to meet that goal in your life. Because each person ought to be able to find their passion and find that space that they want to work in. Some other things that we provide is, as I already mentioned a little bit earlier, we do have a peer support group. We are always open to looking at different support groups that may be of use to individuals. We provide accessibility consultation. That could be something related to your own home. It could be related to a business. It could be related to the city or the counties. We will review plans. We are not formalized Florida ADA coordinators in the sense that we have the lived functional experience that we utilize. We've had lots of trainings in it, and we're able to provide functional assessments and functional feedback to you as organizations. We also have assistive technology, and I will talk about a piece of that in a moment as we look at an organization in a minute that we facilitate. We provide also assistive technology trainings and loans as well. And we will also talk in a moment about amplified phones that are available to individuals in our community. Another piece that we do is, just like we're doing this training right now, we will provide disability awareness and etiquette workshops. We can come to your employer, we can come to your school, we can come to a community neighborhood setting and be able to help people understand what it might be like for a person with disability in your environment. We will look at things that make a difference. We try very hard to make sure that we are able to reach those individuals, as we've already said. We have a loan closet and a distribution of opportunities. And in this piece, I love to share the story. And even as I start to think about the story, I shiver with goosebumps about it, because the gentleman that you see in this picture, Hunter, had been using a manual chair every day in his school environment and in his programming that he had. He was always dependent on adults. He was dependent on his mom or his father, or he was dependent on his school teacher or his personal attendants that might be provided in his school environment. So one of the pieces that he was able to get a hold of was a power wheelchair, which would potentially give him freedom of movement and independence of choice of where he went. and that wheelchair did not have a working battery. So by coming to the center, we were able to assist him in getting a battery that would be added to this wheelchair so that he would have the opportunity to have a power chair. And by having this powerized wheelchair, as soon as his mom was able to transition him into the wheelchair, he turned to her and he said, "Look at me now, Mom, I'm independent," as he rolled down the sidewalk and went on his way. What's really great about that is think about when you were in high school and when you got to school, when you got off that bus. First of all, you got on the bus independently, which is something that he can now do. He can get onto the lift because he can get aligned with it himself rather than having to be placed on it. He can get off that lift though. He can decide who he wants to go talk to. He can decide if he wants to go up to the teacher to ask a question. He can decide where at lunch might he like to go sit with somebody else, or maybe he wants to be by himself, but he gets to make that choice just like everybody else in high school. And doesn't that make you feel like, wow, isn't that what I got to do too if you're an adult? Or isn't that something that you as a person who might be a teenager might like to be able to go do? And of course, as Hunter has grown, he's become a teenager, and he's not a young kid that needs to be lifted into the bathtub anymore. He wanted to take a shower. He wanted to be able to shower like the other kids that would be his age. Well, now with his mom being able to transition him to the bath seat that we were able to also provide through the center and our loan products through our organization, Hunter's able to shower like the big kids now. His exact quote on that. We'll move to the next slide. So FAAST in action is our Florida Association, or Florida Alliance actually, of Assistive Services and Technologies. And through that program, we provide demonstrations and trainings and loan equipment on assistive technology. And we also can help to come to group settings to share information. And in this program, or in these photos, you can see that Susan is standing behind a table at a presentation where she has some equipment, in this case, equipment that was related to employment that she's standing with. And then we're also able to show other pieces of equipment where we have an individual who wanted to be able to express himself. He had limited mobility, but by being able to give him a functional piece of equipment where he could make music, he gets to choose what sounds he emits from that equipment, by which button he chooses to push, and how many times he might choose to push it. So he gets to have access there. And then we also have opportunities that come forward in our environments that we're able to show through the trainings. So if you'd like to have a training that would be set up, you can contact us for those trainings to take place. And we are really proud of this partnership that we have with the Florida Alliance of Assistive Services and Technologies. We also make a difference day to day with people doing all kinds of things. As you can see, our constituent, Ms. Allison Bell, is somebody who's up in her years. She's been able to experience much of life. She's very active. She was working for an organization, a company at JCPenney. She was at the top of her field. She was having some difficulty hearing some of the calls and wanted to make sure that she would have the opportunity to hear what was going on, because her goal is to not just be one of the top people in the country or in the state of Florida with selling draperies for JCPenney's, but she wanted to be the #1 person doing that. She was already the #1 salesperson in her local JCPenney, but she wanted to take that next step. Well, through some of the experience with us, we were able to offer her a piece of equipment that was her ability to hear more information in her community as she talked to folks, but also train her on using a accessible phone through the Florida Telecommunications Relay Incorporated. And you see our staff Karen there showing her some of the different phones, and Mrs. Bell holding the one that she has chosen to use. And every person who might have some changes in their hearing is able to have their opportunity to have pieces that would be shared for them. And so we try very hard to make sure that we know that people in our community have this choice. our information and technology that we have is always changing and always being able to be shared moving forward with what may happen. And so please be in touch with us. We'd be happy to help you know that. So some other pieces that we'd like to make sure that you have is just know that you can also volunteer here, that we provide information about our activities. We make sure that you can reach us. So you're able to write us at CIL, or you can look us up online at CIL-DRC.org. You're also able to write us at information, which is for us it's short at INFO, info@CIL-DRC.org. Or you can give us a telephone call at 850-595-5566. And when you call, we're happy to try to answer any questions that we can. Our phones are generally answered from 8 to 4, but you're always welcome to leave a voicemail. And we look forward to being able to hear from you. Right now, we'd like to open it up to questions and answers. And so I'm going to shift back over to our moderator, and I'm going to shift to the Ask the Director. I guess that's still me at the moment. So I'm happy to be able to answer any of your questions. And I do have some that I have been provided that will also interplay if there isn't some at the moment that are on the panelists that would like to be asking some, or participants that would like to be asking some. So Joanne, do we have a question?
Okay, hello everybody again. My name's Joanne and I'm the tech host. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and type those into your question box. If you'd like to actually chat with Carolyn, feel free to unmute your mic and you can ask your questions freely. If you're dialing in, press *6 and you can unmute or mute your phone with that command. Currently, we don't have any questions in the box, but go ahead and type them or unmute your mic and ask them to Carolyn. She is here to field your questions today.
So I'll go ahead and share one that I often hear, Joanne, and that was provided to me ahead of time. Somebody asked, what does it cost to participate at the center? So the majority of our services are at no cost. Occasionally there's an event or an activity where there is a cost, but we do also offer scholarships. We try to be very inclusive of everybody. We want to have to be able to participate. And so we provide those services. We often do things by appointment or by phone or by email, but there usually is no fee to come to us. So we're happy to be able to look at any of those portions for you. We have a series here that were listed. Joanne, I'll let you interrupt me if we end up with somebody who has a specific question. Maybe if I go through these series, we'll be able to cover all the different ones that might be the questions that somebody has. And I know we've already shared what was a Center for Independent Living, or what is a Center for Independent Living. And again, we plan to try to be here to meet all the needs of persons with disabilities going forward. And I know that some folks have asked us, actually, do I need a medical release in order to come to you? And no, you don't. As long as you're a person who identifies yourself as having a disability, that's really the main criteria for eligibility. There sometimes are things where when we apply for a program with you, or in order to get a particular service that's out in the community, where you might need something from a doctor. But for us specifically, in order to talk with us, you don't need a letter from a doctor. We're an organization that wants to make sure that your service needs are being met and that we can look at what's happening. Okay. Another question that I have is, how long can I stay involved? Is there a time limit to the ability to participate? And, you know, we have some folks that, as I said before, at the early part of the conversation, they might call us and ask us one question. That might be all that they need to do. For other folks, they might be coming to a weekly or a monthly activity with our center. As long as they're meeting their needs to be involved in a goal, we're happy to have them participate. So if you yourself have a goal and that goal is for completing your education, but you're finding from time to time in each term, you need us to have a conversation with your family member or with the school you're in or with a professor, or maybe you need a conversation with the bookstore because you need the format of the book to be different, or it might be that now you're doing a group participation and you want us to do a disability awareness workshop to help your group participants understand a little bit more about you as a person with disability. Anything that we do about you is always with and on behalf of you. We never do it without your permission. But you're invited to be involved as long as you would like to be.
I have a question.
Yes, Joanne.
Someone gets we offered the telephones from FTRI. If someone has an issue with that phone, they might have gotten it somewhere else and maybe needed repair or needed a piece or needed a part. Do we help with that?
Yes, we absolutely do. Somebody can come in and we'll take a look at what they've got. Sometimes it just needs to be programmed, and that is something that our staff is able to take care of. They're welcome to drop in. The issue that we have with that is that sometimes if you just drop in, we may or may not be able to get to you that instant, but it's certainly easier if we do it by appointment, but we will do it either way. And sometimes if it's not repairable, then we will replace that phone at the time, and we'll deal with FTRI, the service organization. We'll take care of sending the broken or missing part phone back so that it can be taken care of, and then you will have new access. There is a form, like if you've never had an FTRI phone before, if I can speak clearly, then we would try to work with you to make sure we have the correct information about yourself. And if you haven't previously had either a doctor write that you had a hearing loss, or if you didn't already have a hearing aid, then we might need to do a short hearing test with you just to show at what level your need may be. And so we would do that. If you're a person who happened to come up to us because you were looking for the phone, but we find out that you have other hearing loss while we're talking to you, and there's another way that we could provide services, we would try to help connect you out to community services that we're aware of in that case. Okay.
How does someone become a volunteer at the center?
Oh, well, that's a great one. We would love to have anybody become a volunteer. You can call or email us. You can dial 850-595-5566 or write to info@cil-drc.org. We have a screening questionnaire that one of our team members, Amy Broxson, would go through with you to see some of what your interest is or your abilities are. And then we would try to match you with the next time that we needed that service. We have all kinds of things. Sometimes they can be errands, sometimes they can be envelope stuffing, sometimes they're phone calls, sometimes it's helping us with donations or event setup or event takedown. We have all different kinds of things, but we truly value the folks who are able to give us a little bit of their time, because we really are all in this together. We are about making sure that we as a community strive forward and make that difference, that everybody can participate, so that we have the funding, the resources in order to be successful for our organization. And actually, that's another one that comes up a lot, is where does our funding come from? And our funding comes from different means. The Rehabilitation Act goes back to 1973. And so in 1976, centers started to be funded. So in 1980 is when our center was formulated, and we began to receive some money that came from the federal government for us to be able to provide services as a center for independent living, which we do all of those core services that we were talking about. We have other programs and pieces that come up at different times. We also receive a bulk of funding directly through the state of Florida, and in that way, that's able to support us as well. We are additionally receiving funds from other contracts that we have out in the community, or sometimes fee for services. And of course, like every nonprofit out in the community, we do fundraising, and we welcome you. You're welcome to even text to Give Lively for us. And in order to do that, you could text to 33441. It is Give CIL, so it's GIVECIL, and you could give. You can also visit our website, and that's at CIL-DRC.org, and you can give that way too. But we welcome and appreciate everybody's time and effort and funding that we're able to receive. We are very proud of the work that we do. And in our satisfaction survey, that's another question sometimes that we hear about. But we have 100% satisfaction with the services that we provide. The majority of those are very satisfied. Then we have many who are satisfied. Sometimes we can't give everybody everything they want, but they're satisfied with their interaction with us. They feel valued and respected as participants. They feel that they get to go places that they couldn't go before, or that doors have been opened and remain open for them because of the work of both my predecessors, my colleagues, my team members, and each of the people with disabilities and each of our supporters out in the community. So thank you to everybody who participated.
Just a reminder that our donate number on the text is 44321, and you're going to text Give CIL to 44321.
Thank you for correcting that number for me. Again, 44321, and your text in the box, Give CIL, and it will take you to the donation page. As well, you can read more about us on our website at CIL-DRC.org, and we look forward to being able to have you be there and look at what's happening. We also have monthly newsletters that we send out, and sometimes during times when more information is needing to be shared, they will come out more frequently. Another question that we often receive, which I didn't address when I was talking about volunteers, is that our full board is volunteer. Our board volunteers, and in order to become a board member, you can visit our website to look at the board application if you'd like to download that. But you can contact myself as the center director, and I will get you in touch with one of our board representatives and myself, so we can have a conversation with you to find out your interests. You can then also share with us your application and your resume, giving us your life experience or your work experience of who you are and why you want to be involved with us. And then we bring that to our board development committee, and our board development and recruitment committee will then meet with you and review with you as to what's going on. And they bring it to the full board, and the board makes a vote based on the content that's shared. We're always looking for a variety of backgrounds. So you might be a person with disability, and that's something also that's very true. I don't think I shared earlier, which I normally would, that 51% or more of both our board and our staff are people with disabilities. And so all kinds of disabilities need to be represented in our staffing and in our board. We also need all kinds of professionals in our community who bring their expertise to the table too. So we have accounting on our board, we have attorneys on our board, we have individuals who are in business or in sales, we have individuals who themselves want to see something be different because they have a family member with disability. And most of all, of course, we have over 51% of people with disabilities, people who have the lived experience of what our mission talks about. People who may have been participants with us in the past, or people who themselves out in the world have participated and then find us and then help to give forward, to pay it forward to all the members of our community. Joanne, do we have any other questions that have come in?
That was all the questions.
Okay. Just one last piece I would add on here before I just remind everybody one more time of how to reach us, is that we have a lot of ADA resources that are on our site, and we're also able to let you know that our website is fully accessible. And we do a lot of postings and sharing out on Facebook as well. And sometimes we have pieces that people want to question. We welcome that dialogue and that conversation, we aren't expecting everybody in the community to agree with us. But what we want to be able to do is have the opportunity that people in the community can hear what our viewpoint is, what your viewpoint is, and then they can make their own best judgments for their own decisions. Because remember, the Center for Independent Living is here to help you meet the goal that you have for your future. And we want that to be as inclusive as possible for a full ability to participate in our society. So Joanne, why don't we bring up that way to contact us again on that last slide, and people can see that, which is www.cil-drc.org. That's our website. We've got info@cil-drc.org for our main information emails. And we have our phone number at 850-595-5566. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again to all our participants and all of your questions today. Feel free to be in contact with us with any other questions that you may have. Thank you, everybody. Wish you well. Have a great day. Thank you, Joanne, for your support too.